Mr. Pitts, would you please give us your words of advice and encouragement on this issue?
Thank you, Jean. I really want to commend the lady from Ohio for her leadership, and the Pro-Life Women's Caucus for having this special order. You know, there are really no more eloquent voices for women and children than pro-life women. And you're not only eloquent, you're elegant, and I want to thank you for your wonderful statements on the issue of life and women and the unborn child. You know, abortion is an exploitation of women and children. I remember hearing the president of Feminists for Life, Frederica Matthews Green, a few years ago when she spoke to the Congressional Life Forum. And she said, you know, abortion breaks a woman's heart. She said there are always two victims with an abortion. One's the baby, the other's the mother. One's dead, one is wounded. And we should keep that in mind as we talk about this issue. I am very sad to see this administration act so quickly to go towards promoting abortion policies. 3 days after the president was inaugurated, on Friday evening at about 5:30, he issued an order overturning the Mexico City policy. Mexico City was started by President Reagan, and it has been in our policy for many years. And he overturned Mexico City. What that does is permit all of the family planning funds that go to international organizations to go to organizations that promote and provide abortions. By eliminating the Mexico City policy, he has given them that money. And not only did he overturn Mexico City, in the omnibus bill, he raised the amount of money this year to $545 million going to these international organizations that promote and provide abortions. It's a tragedy. He is becoming known by many in the pro-life community as the abortion president. It's very unfortunate. It's very sad. The next thing he did shortly after that was to issue an executive order overturning the federal ban that President Bush had put on the stem cell policies, expanding the use of taxpayer funds for use to destroy embryos so that they could harvest the stem cells and use them for experimentation. Not only did he do that, he in his order issued an order to discourage adult stem cell research. Now, we all know, having followed this for many years, for the last 25 years, they've done research on mice, for the last 12, 13 years on humans, that the only thing that has worked as far as treating humans are adult stem cells. There's something like 73 successful treatments and several protocols using adult stem cells, but nothing using embryonic stem cells, which kills the tiniest of human beings, the human embryo. And then he proposed a rule shortly after that to remove the critical regulations that were put in place to protect the right of conscience of healthcare workers, so that now healthcare workers, doctors, nurses, those in healthcare, can be compelled against their conscience to provide abortion services, referral and providing abortion services. This is another promotion, if you will, of abortion. And then in the omnibus bill, they removed the provisions that would have prevented funds from going to the UNFPA, the groups in China that promote abortion, forced abortion, and forced sterilization. They now are eligible to get those funds for that practice. I remember a few weeks ago, Harry Wu, the great human rights activist from China who spent 19 years in their Lagoi, the gulag there, presented testimony before the Human Rights Caucus. And he said, you know, in China, having a baby is not a human right. He said, if you have a second pregnancy, they will forcefully abort that woman. They will forcibly sterilize her. They will find her and tear down her house and sometimes imprison her. And we're putting U.S. taxpayer funds into organizations that promote and provide that kind of service in China. It is really a terrible thing that American taxpayers who have a conscience against their funds from being used for these things are now seeing this administration open the floodgates for these kinds of provisions in our country and around the world. And now in this budget, in the Obama budget, he has proposed, he's included a loophole that would allow taxpayer funds for abortion in the District of Columbia. The best way to reduce abortions is to limit taxpayer funding for abortion. There's been a lot of talk about abortion reduction. And the one thing that everyone seems to agree on is that public funding for abortion increases the number of unborn babies lost to abortion. Even the Alan Guttmacher Institute, the arm of Planned Parenthood, routinely issues reports showing that when public funding is not available, 30% fewer women in the covered population have abortions. That means 30% of babies whose mother receives government-subsidized health care survive because of abortion funding restriction. And so undermining common sense policies like the restriction on taxpayer funding for abortion flies in the face of the president's claims that he's working to reduce abortion in America. It is very unfortunate. And so I just want to commend the pro-life women for this special order tonight. They have an understanding like no one else on this issue, and it is so heartening to hear their eloquent testimony and voices on behalf of women and children here in our country and around the world. So thank you. Thanks to the lady for inviting me down. I really commend you for your special order tonight.
Well, and thank you so much for sharing some moments with